Welcome, everyone, to Minions at the Zoo Tuesday edition. I'm your keeper this evening, Skep Tock. With me, I have Minions Blind Press.
Hello, everybody.
The Harry Channel.
Good evening.
And Jason, who I will not call useless, but Jason is the cook.
How goes it?
And so it's so nice to have all three of you with me this evening and here in this calm, easygoing time of, stable economy,
Everybody's
plenty for everyone. Everybody's at peace. Everybody's happy.
Fighting. There's no huge conflict going on right now. Everything is cool.
Twitter's quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Twitter's quiet. Yep.
Yep. Very, very definitely. Man, it just. I was watching this clown who I'm ashamed to say went to the same university that I did, named Stephen Colbert. Now, Stephen Colbert,
Jesus Christ,
bills himself as a comedian, and he essentially got on TV last night. He says he's Johnny Carson's replacement, but I think that history may have a different opinion. Anyway, but he does come on at the same time. I will give him that. That I think the thing with Colbert is that he really is that tone deaf. He essentially said, I'm willing to pay a little more for, to have a clear conscience about the environment. This is a guy who is making $16 million a year. He's on a contract for $16 million a year, plus various other deals. He's worth $90 million. And
plus he's got royalties. Like he's been in movies and shit. He's got royalties. He's got a steady income.
He's a Broadway actor. He gets money from Broadway shows that he's been in. Anyway, make a long story short, Colbert has concluded that because he's willing to buy a Tesla, that somebody who's earning $30,000 a year should be willing to spend over 2 years of salary to buy that car.
Or think about somebody like freaking, all these people that are like, just buy a Tesla, just buy a Tesla. You think somebody like Pincalo could do his job in a fucking Tesla?
Oh, of course he did. But he'd have to right size himself. He would have to make fewer deliveries and drive fewer miles, and that would be good for the environment, even though you would starve.
Yeah, he would only be stuck doing like freaking in-town deliveries for law firms, and we would not be able to eat.
Yeah.
That's basically
and Joe Biden has a fix for that. He has food stamps for you.
Oh boy.
He'll even give you a break on your taxes if you're poor enough.
Yeah. And what's poor enough?
That's who he is.
And what is poor enough?
He'll let you know.
You'll find out.
Oh, good. Okay.
They'll change every semester,
You'll know it when you see it. It's like art.
It's like art. I like that, Harry. That's funny.
Yeah. It's So this would have been a difficult time and a complicated time for a president with real talent, who was really on the ball, who was really dialed into what was going on. It would be a tremendous challenge for him. But Biden's making it look easy, because it's like the village idiot walks into a room where calculus is being taught. That he is so disconnected from the process. And you can see that he walks up, he reads what they tell him to read. He's
doesn't even read it right.
Angry. Oh God. He doesn't get it right half the time. All of his soft consonants, like the L's and the soft G's, and he can't pronounce those anymore because his mouth doesn't work right. He's starting to have some brain dysfunction, some real cerebral dysfunction, and it seems to be affecting his speech center. Watch him walk. His motor centers are being affected. He is, I watched this too many times. This is an old person getting older. It's the
Did
way
you
we
see
die.
what he said about Putin yesterday? I saw a video from Breaking 911, and I'm not sure how trustworthy
Yeah.
this is because it's Breaking 911.
Breaking 911 is crap.
It is.
So everybody knows, and
but
I know you know that.
But this video clip was Joe saying, we've got this guy, Putin, and he's attacking the Russians. And this hasn't happened since, World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, Putin's attacking the Ukraine. Wow. Okay, and then there was the thing that Monkey just played just before I got the link, where he was talking about the 3 congressmen that he was with in the room, and he's like, we've got these 3 congressmen here. 2 of them, they look like they, did or could and did play ball. The other one looks like he could bomb you. It's like, what?
What?
Fuck?
No, wait. What was this? This was Biden introducing
Yes,
congressmen
Biden
to-
said that
It was just Texas, I think.
about 3 congressmen. 2 of them looked like they could and did play ball. The other one looks like he could bomb you. 2 black congressmen and an Arabic congressman.
Oh, the guy
Nice.
from Houston. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know about this. All right.
And then today he's like, we're gonna actually ban Russian oil.
Yeah, that's a
I'm
good
like-
move. That's 6% of our oil requirements.
It's a good move for him because
Yeah.
what Biden's going to do is he's going to say, well, you guys, according to the polls, said you wanted this, and this is why gas is so expensive.
Yep.
I'm just giving you what you asked for,
Yeah.
despite the fact that it was closing in on $7 a gallon in some places before he banned it.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Stephen Colbert says he's willing to pay $16 a gallon for gas.
So BP,
I wonder.
Yes.
sorry, I was just going to say, have you ever spent any time around like a really old person who's not aging well?
Yes.
What?
Okay, you know that point where they do that thing with their mouth where like Biden does this a lot, where he's kind of opening his mouth a little. It's like he's looking for leftover pudding, like there might be some
Yeah,
in one of the corners.
my great grandfather, he was like, he kind of lost his mental faculties, but he still insisted that he was fine. Right? He lived alone, but like he really shouldn't have been living alone. You know what I mean? And he had he had false teeth, but he barely wore them. Like he refused to wear them. So every time he would breathe with his mouth open.
Mhm.
So it would be like, and he didn't care. Like it would just be stupid, like really loud. But he didn't care.
Of course, he didn't care. That's
And
one of
he
the
would-
advantages of getting older.
Yeah, and
you
he
just
would
don't
just-
care.
He would
You
just
don't.
sit,
Yeah.
would just sit there at the head of the table, and every once in a while he would just start giggling to himself. And
He remembered a thing.
yeah,
That the
he remembered
Cats and
the thing.
Jammer Kids or something.
It was
whatever
really
it was.
funny to him, and he would just
Dot gets murder.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Good
I
old
just really
Grandpa
wanted to get
Louie.
that pudding crack out there.
No,
so.
well now I've got the pudding prospector vision, and with Dad, walking around.
Yeah.
I want to might be.
I actually know somebody who started getting senile dementia when they were 50.
Ooh.
The trouble is you just don't know. It's just one of those things that can happen. It can happen when
Yeah.
you're 50. It can happen when you're a lot older. So there are people that kind of keep their wits about them until they're 100, like Betty White.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you just don't know. So, I mean, I'm not trying to make a crack
No,
that just
no.
because Biden's, what is he, 78,
But
79?
he shouldn't be in power. Is the
It isn't
point.
just about his age, is the point I'm clumsily
No,
trying to make.
like,
Because
Right.
there are people in his age who are a lot more with it than Biden
Exactly.
is. Biden is not doing well.
But Biden
Full
is
stop.
clearly not compos mentis anymore.
Well,
And he needs to not be the leader of a nation. This is not.
non-compos mentis is a pretty specific standard. But what he's not qualified to do is be president.
No,
He
he's
probably is competent mentally to enter into contracts and things like that, which non-compos menace means you have proved yourself not able to do that. He probably is capable of doing that. He can buy a car, stuff like that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
the big guy, the big guy has to manage. The big guy has to manage business. You know.
Yeah, he's a wily business manager. Oh
I'm looking forward to, you know, after Biden's out of office, you know, it's going to be 10 years from now. I'm really looking forward to finding out what business deals Hunter Biden's going to have in Iran. Yeah. Because you know there's going to be, you know, sometimes you get your slice on the front end, sometimes you get your slice on the back end. Yeah. And in a case like this, you know, when he's actually president, you got to wait till afterwards. So you can bribe them on the way into the White House and after they've left. But yeah, so it'll be fun to see what kind of art deal Hunter Biden puts together or whatever it's going to be. This is all pure speculation.
I think there's going to be an art career for Joe. Mm-hmm. Presidential art and possibly some
finger paintings.
No, I was thinking more in terms of taking his bowel movements and bronzing.
Oh, okay.
You know, something that to remind us of what he produced during his administration.
Speaking of bronzed bullshit, so I heard Pincalo scrolling through TikTok today, and up comes a video of a "fuck Trudeau" chant all the way over in the UK while he was going out to meet Her Majesty, which I thought was amazing.
That's nice to hear.
Some dual citizens, you know, probably showed up to yell "fuck Trudeau" as he went to meet the Queen. Like, you know, you're making an impact when the citizens that don't even live in your country anymore are showing up wherever you are to yell "fuck Trudeau." It's like,
well, if we want to be fair and balanced here, we really do need to kind of call out the Ukrainians for the cavalcade of propaganda and bullshit that they've been putting out into the world. It's steady. It's not the fog of war if you're in a room with 100 fog machines. That's what they're doing. It's not the fog of war. It's the smoke screen of war.
There's a lot of propaganda going on the Ukrainian side and on the Russian side, and
well, the Russian side I kind of expect it, but the Ukrainian side, my favorite one, which I can find if you really want me to find it, is
find it.
There's a bunch of bodies with like blankets, like sheets over them that are supposed to be the dead.
Oh, and like one guy's
and there's a reporter standing in front of them, and then one of the guys just sort of like is under the sheet, kind of wakes up from a nap, you know, and then he's moving around. He's supposed to be dead, but he's not. And somebody comes and rushes over to him, puts his arms back down, and pulls the cover over his head again.
Like, why do they need to be doing propaganda?
See, I've been pulling stuff like that between the Palestinians. The Palestinians have been making, they call it Pallywood. Mm-hmm. The Palestinians have been making things like that for years, showing, you know, their guys supposedly being gunned down, you know, and there's always stuff wrong. And I've even got to the point where I can say, okay, first of all, that's a Kalashnikov. IDF uses Uzis, so that'd be bullshit. Secondly, you know, I can even identify a current and even some historical IDF uniforms. They never have those. They're just in camo greens, and the camo's wrong and all that stuff. And they say, here come the Israeli soldiers gunning down these poor children, and the children are all, you know, laid out and so forth, and one of them will be moving a little bit, and then at the end, one of them will get up and just walk off the thing. Oh, I thought we were done.
Oh, we're not done yet. Oh, sorry.
So Harry, this is an established art of this kind that it seems to have been going around for a while now.
Yeah, well, there's a possible explanation for why they seem to be so darn good at it.
Why?
Well, I found this thing. Now, I know this is a meme, but usually memes have a cluster of truth in them. Can you embiggen that? So we know that Zelensky was a comedian / actor, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So according to this meme, which basically is just a clown world sort of thing, they say the chief of staff of the presidential palace, Andrei Yermak, is a comedy producer. The head of the presidential administration, Andrei Bodin, is a lawyer in the entertainment industry. The president's chief political advisor, Sergei Shefy, is a comedy writer. Ivan Bakhanov, deputy chairman of the Ukrainian Supreme Intelligence Service, is the boss of a comedy film company. And number 5 senior advisor to the Ukrainian National Defense Committee, Sergei Sivoko, is also a comedian and is Zelensky's partner in acting. Now,
I've seen the two of them and their act, by the way. It's pretty funny.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yes.
So these guys definitely know how to create a scene.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to produce something. They understand what all the moving parts are to putting together drama. And it's not like this is the first time this has ever happened. There was a crazy, was he Bavarian? There's like this crazy Bavarian prince that built all these storybook castles that didn't really function as castles. They were essentially elaborate sets because he wanted a place for them to put on like operas and shows based on on mythology. Yeah. So we've got a long history of people with way too much theatrical sense getting into power. But I think the reason, I think the reason that the bullshit PR stream from Ukraine is as good as it is and as intense as it is because these guys are all showmen. You know, they're kind of like, hey kids, let's put on a show. We'll save the orphanage by raising money. Oh, we'll just clear out this barn and here's the stage. You know, and that's what they're doing. And they're actually doing a pretty good job of it for the most part. Because you know they've got guys sitting in a room somewhere coming up with memes.
Yeah.
And thinking of ideas for for film bits that they're going to put out for B-roll and stuff.
It's a sobering thing when I was watching this comedy routine, which featured the now president of Ukraine playing a piano. Wait for it. With nothing but his penis.
Oh boy.
Nice.
And so being as it's a single note kind of an instrument, he had his partner, the guy you mentioned, is as his duet partner. The two of them played a grand piano with their penises.
Mm-hmm.
I should get that. It's actually a very funny. It's actually a very funny bit, and there's nothing naughty. It's not even PG because the interesting parts are hidden. But where they got the idea for this, I'll never know. But anyway, it made.
And you make me not be enormous now.
Yeah, I'm working on that. It's complicated. I'm writing the program now.
As we on the fly writing programming.
Well, just scale and translate.
Yeah. By the way, yeah. Got me thinking about something else.
I got a chip for that.
Dang it. Today I was I put an update. I keep up with Windows 10 updates, so I put an update on, and I'm pretty used to, the updates. They usually break StreamYard, although it's not usually broken as badly as it was tonight. And but this seemed to break Discord because evidently at the exact moment that I was doing my recycle, Discord went down. Did you guys see that? Well, I know Harry did. Harry confirmed it back to me. I didn't even know until Harry told me.
Well, Discord they were down. Everybody.
Well, see, here's what happened. I went to the actual Discord webpage.
Right.
And I did they have a thing, shows system outages, blah, 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 blah. And I got a thing coming back saying, messages error and indicated to me that it's actually a component of Windows was not satisfied with something. And I would have to go and run that down, figure out who was doing what to whom. So I just assumed, it was my machine. And I spent like 10 minutes working on that thing before Harry came back and told me, no, Discord really is down, but the message that I got from their website did not tell me they were down. It just gave, because their web server evidently was down.
Mm.
And I was not getting some kind of message back. Anyway, that was a weird thing today. So it's been I've been used to this computer working perfectly, and
that's your new one, right?
Yeah, this is my new one. So
yeah, don't feel bad, Skep. I spent a day and a half tracking down an error because sometimes something happens at the same time as something else. And
yes.
So you go, okay, the most logical thing is the thing that happened caused the other thing that happened.
Absolutely.
I have this stack of very pricey Meraki switches that I was dealing with, and they're like 1,000. There's $1,500 a year just for maintenance on each of these switches, and there's 8 of them.
Holy shit.
10.
That's a lot of money.
There was an update on the 4th, and I started getting these tickets from people saying, "What the hell is going on? All this stuff's down," only to find that 2 of them were just suddenly broken on the 5th. So I spent a day and a half thinking it was something that Meraki had done, but it turned out the switch they were connected to just randomly had a little episode. Yeah. And all you got to do is, unplug it and plug it back in a bunch of times and then go, look, I fixed it, until the next time it breaks. But yeah, don't feel bad. I wasted a day and a half thinking that it was Meraki's fault that these switches were down when it turned out it was a Juniper problem. So I can relate.
Yeah, it just made me feel. It's very tempting to conclude you're an old senile fool who shouldn't be messing with stuff anymore. But the silver lining was that it got me into the application area, and I uninstalled a lot of software that comes with a new PC.
Yeah,
that I had not sat down and done that. Now my system idle, even with browsers open and things doing is. Unless I'm doing something, if I'm not even moving the cursor, is my system idle percentage is 99.8%. So I really have, and it was running like 93, 94. So I did have like a 5% system improvement today as a result of that last episode.
This is that new, like that. Is it a Dell or was it an HP? I can't remember.
It's a Dell. This is a Dell that I have. Yeah. Yeah, HPs. I had an HP laptop a long time ago. But in fact, that was my Singapore laptop.
I had an HP laptop. It had a broken screen, but it didn't matter to me because I didn't need the screen.
Well, HP's like a big company, and they have a lot of history.
Mm-hmm.
Now, their early history is pretty darn interesting.
Oh, yeah.
The whole they literally were started in a garage in Silicon Valley.
Dave Packard's garage.
Yep. It's a great story.
My dad visited Dave Packard about a year after they moved out of that garage.
Is that the same Packard as in the Packard car?
No.
Or is that a different Packard?
That's a different Packard.
I've always wondered
It's a different Packard. They're about, what would you say, 70 years removed, Harry? 60, 70 years?
Oh, I know I know the Packard cars are old cars, but I was just wondering if David Packard was a descendant of...
No, he was a penniless engineer, really, and just, scuttling out a living as best he could back in the day.
But they were making scientific instruments, and they had this big revolutionary thing they came up with was a scientific calculator that didn't suck, that people could actually afford to buy. Because, kid you not, a lot of engineers were doing engineering using a book where they would do things like look up logs and trig values.
Yes.
And then you would use your slide rule, and between the two of these things, you would do science. You would just science real hard.
You've looked up logs, haven't you? You're old enough to done. Okay, all right, and financial people looked up coefficients to compute future and net present value and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, we just you had to make sure you're on the right line and write down those digits very carefully. And then, I remember doing
I remember
new math will
math
save us all.
on slates with
Common
pieces of
Core will
charcoal
save us
the
all from
campfire.
that, right?
I
Yes,
remember
Common Core has.
when I was like 5 or 6, I remember Grandpa had this, I don't know if it was the HP one, but it was a scientific calculator that you could type out everything and then you could hit a print button and a little slip of paper would be printed out with your equations and stuff.
Did it have an equal sign?
Yeah.
It was TI.
TI.
Oh, okay.
Texas Instrument.
Possibly a TI 59 with accessories.
Why don't kids used to hack those, put games on them? The TIs.
Well, the early ones you couldn't really put games on.
Yeah.
They said LEDs.
I had a TI 57,
LEDs.
a TI 57, and my friend Jonathan had a TI 58, and my friend Kurt had a TI 59. We were so cool together. And I had it. I think I was in 6th, 7th grade, and this was something that I saved up my money and bought, and it was great because you could put 50 steps into it. You could program it. It was a programmable calculator, and you could do things like compute biorhythms.
Oh, cool.
It was, high tech.
Yeah.
High tech. But that was actually a pretty decent little thing because you could write little simple programs to compute things.
That's
and they
awesome.
had basic calculators, but HP went on to buy a bunch of companies like Digital Equipment Corporation. DEC was a big pioneering company. It got folded in, and HP most recently bought, SGI bought Cray, or was it Cray that bought SGI? And then HP bought SGI to form HP Enterprise. So a whole bunch of companies that you used to know have all been gobbled up by the Borg, which is basically HP.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad company. Some of the smarter people on this planet in terms of computer stuff work there.
Yeah.
They're not terrible, but I wouldn't say that for their high performance stuff, they're terribly good value. But they have a lot of good stuff. I mean, I'm not gonna malign HP.
No.
They're a pretty decent company.
not at all.
Well, they bring computers to the normal people, to people who don't know a lot about computers.
Well, they do the normal people and the abnormal people who do like the big science. So some of your bigger supercomputers are HPs now.
Okay.
Yeah.
My dad was involved in instrumentation engineering, high precision measurements, particularly of heat and heat transfer, but also fluid and fluid mechanics. And that was what led him to get to meet Dave Packard back in the day.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Interesting time. I'm going to be calling Dad later on, probably the weekend, and I'll get the exact readout of how that happened. But he said he was a big guy. He said he was a big, tall guy with a big voice. And I just remember him telling. He said, I got to meet somebody. I think he's really gonna go places. Dad coming home. This guy's sharp. Yeah, Dad, he's a civilian. That's the way we thought back then. How could anybody with a brain not be in the military? It's really the way I was raised.
That's funny.
I don't know why I'm reflecting on that. Anyway, getting back to fun stuff. When I was a sophomore in college back in 1971, in the autumn of 1971, the Bomar 901B, popularly called the Bomar Brain, which measured 5 inches by 3 inches by 2 inches. This is not a small machine. Had 4 functions on it: plus, minus, times, and divide, and an 8-digit red LED display was available for $240.
Jesus Christ.
By the end of the decade, similar calculators were selling for $6.
That's
by 1981.
insane.
Or by 1980, yeah.
Yeah, those little pocket calculators with the folding, the little, you know what I'm talking about, right? The book thing that you could stick papers and shit inside the cover.
Absolutely. It came on a fold.
Yeah, it was like a billfold type of
Right.
thing.
Well, I saw a documentary. They said the calculator is what started the computer industry. So
The
I'm not sure
calculators.
which one that would be.
Yeah.
Like HP 35. Maybe?
yeah, so
What, the first calculator?
yeah.
No, the first calculator really was the Bomar Brain. That was the first calculator in 1971. That's no
Depends. I
fool.
mean, you mean the first electronic calculator?
Electronic
Yeah.
calculator.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Because the Curta
fingers came first. I know.
because no, but something like the Curta calculator, which was a mechanical thing, and there's that whole story involving the N-word
Babbage.
people and
Yeah.
the Germans
Yeah.
and
Babbage's
concentration
arithmetic
camps
machine.
and all sorts
The
of other stuff.
Germans.
Yes.
My,
Yeah. Well,
my mother wasn't allowed to use a calculator when she was growing up. My grandmother was like, "No, you need to use a slide rule, and you need to learn how to do your stuff. You need to learn how to do it in your head. You no calculators."
Do you have any clue what the hell kind of monstrosity this is, Skep?
let me see. what-
It's like one of those one-wheeled motor.
Oh yeah,
vehicles.
yeah. That's kind of.
I don't know much about the history of these. I know they sort of mocked it soundly on South Park when the TSA first started out.
That's kind of awesome.
Look at how pleased he is with himself.
Wow. He looks like he's the bass player for Gary Puckett in the Union Gap.
That does not look like that does not look like the most breathable outfit.
Yeah.
No. That in fact, there's nothing good about this picture, really, in terms of being comfortable.
Well, I bet you could feel
That's
every bump on that thing.
Yeah, no kidding. The suspension sucks. The suspension are the springs in your seat and the
Yeah.
fat on your butt.
Yeah.
You know, basically, Blind Press, this guy is sitting in a giant circle. The
Okay.
outer part of the circle is a giant tire. Okay,
Alright.
and that's what rolls. So this whole thing rolls, and he's sitting on a seat inside the wheel. So he's sitting inside a wheel.
So the
He's-
tire
he's-
is vertical, and
The
he's
tire is
sitting
vertical.
inside the vertical. Okay.
Exactly, and he's keeping it balanced by putting each leg, on the ground. But he can lift them up when the thing starts, and it just I'm not sure how he steers it other than leaning. That's the only thing I can think that he would be able
Yeah.
to do.
That's
But that ought to be pretty effective.
That also
I don't know.
sounds incredibly claustrophobic. I don't.
Oh, it's completely open. It's totally open. I mean, it is really thin. This thing, the tire part looks like it's less than a foot thick.
So
Well,
it's
the
like a small car tire.
No, it's a
Thickness.
huge tire.
No, I mean like the thickness of it.
Oh yes, the thickness is like to
The
your eye, it looks
wideness
like a
of
thin
it.
tire. The wideness is probably about the same as an average automobile tire,
Yeah.
but it's much larger. I mean,
Right,
right.
right. The diameter is larger. The
Yeah.
circumference is larger, but
Right. Right.
Well, plus that
width
seat just makes my back hurt just looking at it too.
And,
Sure.
so this they've got this 1978 disco guy
Oh, Jesus.
sitting inside this thing. He's wearing a brown leather sports coat, and the pants
Leather
match
bell bottoms.
the brown leather sports coat.
Oh, God.
And it shouldn't. It's horrible. It's horrifying. And of course they're bell cut. And
Yeah.
and he's got cowboy boots on that I actually think would be illegal in Texas.
Are they the cowboy boots that certain mincing people would?
They're
as
just
Sanguine would say, the mincing.
They match. Yeah.
in Texas we would say those ain't work boots. And but the worst part about this guy is the hair. His hair looks like it has been washed in about a week,
Oh, good.
and he looks high. He's I don't know what possessed him to sit in the thing. All that said, I'd like to have one.
I was gonna say
it looks kind of fun.
I'm pretty high all the time, and I
Yeah.
don't have any desire to go in that thing.
I kind of like the concept.
However, I do still, even though I'm 32 years old, wish that I had gotten a pogo stick when I was a child.
Yeah.
You
could not. You would not be able to turn this thing below about 10 miles an hour because there is no steering. So you're not at the point where gyroscopic progression is going to basically do shit.
Yeah.
At low speed. At low speed, basically, you'd be like, let me just put my feet down on the ground and go.
You've got no gyroscopic moment to lean into at low speed.
Okay,
higher
so
speed,
before
you would have some gyroscopic effect. Though,
before you kick me off of full screen, I want to show you a logo for a computer store. I think you've seen this, but I'm just going to give this to you. Is that terrible or what?
What?
I don't think they thought this through.
Who got drunk and did the advertising?
It's totally a mouse, and it definitely doesn't look like a penis leaving a trail.
Or a guy mooning everybody.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, he's sitting on the edge of a cliff mooning everybody while he ties his shoes.
Yes. Oh God, this is so bad.
Yeah, it's really bad.
What Blind Press, what Harry has put up is a logo for the computer doctors. We make computers work for you. But the U in the word computer looks to me like a guy leaning forward and mooning you. And it's supposed to be a stylized mouse with two buttons, you know, and it even has a mouse cord trailing off from it, which, you know, used to be. But yeah, that is definitely one of the worst logos I have ever witnessed.
There's something going on there, and it's not all bad.
Yeah. It's there's an inside joke, I suspect. I really hope that's what that is.
Well, you'd be surprised. Sometimes this is why a lot of times on the Saturday show, I won't tell everybody everything that's going to be covered. You know, who's on the panel, because you can only see something for the first time once.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and you do kind of go kind of nose blind. In a sense, to something when you've been there in a room, two people talking to each other over the course of many hours, as they just kind of go, we just got to come up with something. The next thing that comes along that doesn't look stupid, we're just going to use it.
Yeah.
You can convince yourself of just about anything, like that this is a good logo.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's so wrong. It's so
pretty
wrong.
bad.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. It's.
I apologize.
No, it's enough to make.
Why you didn't make it?
No.
It's enough to make me want to talk about cooking. Jason, what's the coolest thing you've cooked recently?
Well, I made a carbonara twice actually.
Ooh, carbonara.
Now, what is a carbonara?
It's like a Italian dish. It's spaghetti, cheese, and pancetta. I don't know how to.
Oh, pancetta?
Yeah, pancetta. Here you go. It was pretty good.
Oh, pancetta?
Yeah.
Pancetta?
Okay. It's expensive, but it's good. You know?
Thought that's what he meant. All right.
Carbonara is so good.
I still get the technique down because I think the
well, tell us how you made it.
Well, because there's no cream in it. You have to you take the eggs and the cheese.
Yeah.
You mix it together. And you have to let it melt just right so it just doesn't come out stringy, but nice and creamy.
Now, do you use bacon in your carbonara? Or did you do bacon carbonara, or did you just do the?
Just the pancetta. I felt bacon was too much flavor for it.
Right.
Really overpowering. I did that, and it was pretty good. I had to make it twice because I don't think the first script I made of it. And I used the first time I made it, I used Parmigiano Romano, which is pretty good. But then I used pecorino the next time, and that was even better with the pecorino.
That's the right thing to use.
Yeah. But other than that, I haven't really done much. Well, I've done some smoking, some meats. I've been playing with that around. I made some smoked potatoes. Those were pretty good.
Do you-
Pincalo got himself a dehydrator last
Oh.
year, and he's been making jerky.
Nice.
Yeah.
I used to use
What's
jerky
he-
for chili and whatnot.
What's he making it from?
So
What kind of jerky is he making?
Pincalo likes to buy, he'll either buy roasts and cut them into thin pieces, or he will buy like rouladen. And then he'll he'll marinate it
Mhm.
for a day or two, and then he will dehydrate it for depending on how thick the pieces are,
Yeah.
How long does it take to make beef jerky with a dehydrator?
From start to finish, a batch takes Pincalo probably 2 or 3 days because he's marinating first.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
then
how long does he marinate for?
he marinates it for at least a day.
Oh, okay.
What kind of herbs does
marinating-
he use though?
Yeah.
He makes his own marinade.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So he different spices, different sauces, and then he puts them in the food grade Ziploc bag and puts it in the fridge. And every once in a while, as he walks by the fridge, he takes it out and like kind of massages the marinade around. And
Yeah.
and the cool thing is the dehydrator came with like a really, really fine screen so that you can dehydrate herbs and onions and stuff like that too. You can make your own spices basically.
You can make your own paprika. It's just dehydrated red peppers, bell peppers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wonder if that would work on the annoying dog next door.
And then I became part of the air fryer cult at Christmas time.
Oh, I love my air fryer too, though. So.
It's amazing. And then I discovered that if you warm up like last night's pizza the next morning in the air fryer,
Yeah.
oh wow. It's amazing.
Now, what are you calling an air fryer?
And
Is this the weird thing that my grandchildren dump their frozen McNuggets into?
It can be, yeah.
you cook it with air? Yes.
Yeah, and it says it cooks with air, which
It does cook with air. It's
Seems like it would have
what
to
is it?
cook with-
Convection?
but
Well,
It's hot
yes.
air.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's like an oven with a fan in it. That's all.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
you can cook chicken nuggets and French fry. You can even do wet stuff like chicken wings with sauce and like.
I also air fried a steak in mine too.
Yep. My
What-
air fryer came.
Is it
with,
any good?
Oh yeah, it was pretty good.
My
You got
air
stressed on it.
fryer. It came with a little griddle, like a metal thing, a
Mhm.
griddle that you can grill steaks on and burgers and stuff.
Well, have you tried candy bacon yet? You can try
No, I haven't actually.
You could try that. Just rub some bacon, some brown sugar, and air fry that.
Mm.
It's basically a convection oven that you put on your counter.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what.
And because it's small and easier to clean than your real oven, you can go ahead and do things like throw in a few tablespoons of oil and go, woohoo!
Yeah.
You don't want to do that with your regular convection oven.
No.
So there's the air
It's
fryer.
also a lot safer for people like me who have no eyes.
Well, you have eyes; they're just made out of acrylic.
See? Thank you.
The eyes have it.
I keep having this discussion with people who say I have no eyes, and I say, yes, I do. They're just fake. And we got into an argument the other day. He goes, and it was, does somebody with a prosthetic arm still have an arm? And I said, yes, it's just a prosthetic arm. It's still an arm.
Still an arm. I can just take it off and beat you with it if I want to.
There you go.
Yes, and suddenly a wild David arrived. JediGhostBear has joined us. Hi,
With-
David. Nice
I
to see
hear
you.
children
bud.
in the
Hi,
background.
everybody.
Ooh.
Yeah.
My dogs and David's children.
No, I hear actual human children.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Shouldn't
those would
they
be mine.
Sleeping?
Yes. Yes, as a matter of fact, they should.
So
Thank God mine are sleeping.
David has been patrolling the shores of theological apologetics debate today. You want to tell us about your war, David?
Oh, just tweaking folks that are long on brains and short on experience.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
I mean, it's kind of, I got my undergrad in biblical research, so I kind of know this stuff. And there seems to be a trend, both culturally and in apologetics, where people cannot tolerate someone being wrong in their presence.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're wrong, then it suddenly turns into, well, they're lying and dishonest, and which is a totally separate claim than they're
Wrong.
just being wrong. Exactly. And the case of this particular person, Beth McGrew, who also goes by Esther O'Reilly.
What's that all about? Can you explain that to me?
About her, Esther O'Reilly, or
what is Esther O'Reilly's deal?
That was her pseudonym while she was still in college, and now that she's no longer in college, she goes by her actual name.
Okay, so that was just a pseudonym, because that was a little bit confusing. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's unmasked herself, and now she goes.
Part of her book on McGrew's book on Gospel of John.
Yeah, I haven't read that one yet. I've read a little bit of her stuff, interviews and stuff, and she seems to be quite.
She's
intelligent.
real smart. She writes very well and really researches the crap out of her stuff.
Yep, she does, but that's
like the opposite of Karen Armstrong.
Yeah.
Let's piss some people off.
I was just waiting for Karen Armstrong's name to come up.
I actually got to meet her. We invited her and paid for her to come to this was when I was a Presbyterian years ago. Paid for her to come and speak to a group of churches in Arlington, Texas. I didn't do this. My dad was the Sunday school teacher, but he was very involved with that, and contacted her, and she came out. They paid her a ton of money, and but she gave a good talk. It was really interesting talk.
Real quick, I need to go get some rest just in case I am getting sick.
Sure.
And since the kids are home, I'm doing coffee stream at night. Are you available at 10 Central at night?
Sure, absolutely. We can do Wednesday night with Skep.
Okay, cool. So yeah, tomorrow 11 p.m. coffee stream. It's already scheduled, so that will be on my channel. And then Thursday and Friday, I will stream on Twitch. I promise.
All right.
Last week was crazy, so I'm just, but yeah. So have a great rest of your stream, guys. Thanks for having me, Skep.
Well, thanks for coming by, and it's always great to have you. Get a good night's sleep.
I will.
We'll hit it again tomorrow.
All right.
And we'll leave some of the problems unsolved for tonight, so you can solve them tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, VP.
And and at any rate, one of the things that never ceases to amaze me is how prissy and upsettable people in the apologetics community, the people who argue about religion, specifically the ones who argue about Christianity. And I'm throwing Bart Ehrman under the bus there too, because he can be a little bitch when he wants to be.
Yeah. A lot of them are. A lot of them can be. But Bart Ehrman is somebody she thinks is dishonest too.
Well,
it's like, and you're like, okay, yeah. It's like, ugh. Yeah. The whole thing started because I retweeted somebody, Eric Manning, who, So you
retweeted something, and what were they reacting to?
they were just reacting that like, well, and it's my honest opinion is I don't understand why like Mike Licona gets so much hate. For as near as I can tell, simply having a different of opinion on scholarly opinion than these guys.
I think I can provide you some insight. And here's the thing about Licona seems to, from what the little bit of research I did today, and I admit I don't know him as well as I know the other players. He seems to be one of these guys who comes out, kind of half takes a position, then steps back and seems to obfuscate it at other times. He seems to have a little bit of trouble with consistency of message, almost as though his, it's as though he changes from time to time, and that's reflected in his ability to defend his older positions. And he obfuscates, dances around a bit, and people get turned off to him on the credibility aspect. I think that's what's happening. And look at what and so here's what happens. The fundies like McGrew et al. Get their panties in a twist, because they will go after anybody who questions the inerrancy, of the Bible. And if one of on their side, and Licona putatively is not on Ehrman's side, he's certainly closer to McGrew in that lot. If they suspect him of treason, of not keeping the truth faith, of not saying the things that please them, they're going to make themselves feel good by calling that shit out on Twitter. Where God wants us to work it out.
Right, and
Christian thing.
And it's not even inerrancy, because Licona admits to their inerrancy. It's their particular interpretation of inerrancy.
Well, what they're saying he says it's inerrant, but and then goes into things like one of his deals is that he thinks that biographers and history writers back in the day, 2,000 years ago, were encouraged to use their imagination and make shit up. I think that's a stretch. To prove that.
Yeah, I don't think that's Lacona's take.
Is almost impossible.
Yeah, I don't think that's Lacona's take. Why don't they? That's not how Licona would put it. Licona would put it that they would use compositional devices to either save space or emphasize certain points, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he analyzed Plutarch in that way,
right? And Plutarch and Aristarchus and some of these other folks that. So anyway, but before we get too deep in this and just lose everybody, I saw you having this great battle with what's her name, Bethel McGrew. I didn't even see that name. That's how old I am, because I knew who her mother was. I didn't realize she was so David here, guys, was debating a girl who was defending her mother on theological grounds. And it was, well, my mom is right.
but it took forever to get to that point. It took forever because she was like blasting me for, well, I'm not going to do your research for you. I'm like, but you're not making any points.
I'm not going to do your academic legwork for you. And she called you ridiculous. I thought that was great.
I'm just like, she cited her mother. I'm like, for fuck's sake, you're just going to cite your mother. Why didn't you just do that at the beginning? It saves a lot of time. It's, and so I mean, but again, like to their interpretations, Licona is saying that the gospel writers just made shit up. Which is not the way Licona would put it. Licona would say was like they're just using common devices that were common with biography, and the Gospels are biographies, Greco-Roman biographies, and they should be interpreted in that light.
But the Christian right is going to come back to him and say what you're saying is that they made stuff up. And you're saying that stuff is in the Bible, and that will not fly with a certain set of people, as you know.
Right. Well, he's trying to figure out the synoptic problem. He's
Yep.
trying to come up with an answer to the synoptic problem, which McGrew doesn't even bother to try to solve. And so it just like it almost, because I tried to dig into what her research, and she just kind of what is it? Well, just ordinary historical reporting. The gospel is just ordinary historical reporting, which, as well researched as it is, it encourages just a naive reading of the text that doesn't address why, for instance, why there is stuff that is common to Matthew and Luke, but not Mark. In some cases, almost word for word in Matthew and Luke, and not Mark. This is like, we're just not even going to address the issue. I'm like, well, sorry. And I think where Lacona gets in trouble is he wears more than one hat. He's got the apologetics hat that he wears, but he also has the historian and Bible scholar hat. And sometimes he'll switch between hats. And when you're in the apologetics hat, you need to be a lot more simple and straightforward and basic. Mm-hmm. And when he throws the other hat on, it looks like he's being deceptive. I don't see the inconsistency, but then I read this stuff for fun.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for inconsistency, you're going to find it. And especially if you're not kind of just telling the team what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of that in apologetics anyway, though. But anyway, by the way, what we're talking about, the synoptic problem, is the first three gospels in the New Testament are so close to one another that you can print them in 3 columns. And I have, you can get this online, or you can even get it printed. And they basically flow the same way. John is a lot different from the other 3 gospels, but that's anyway. When we talk about the synoptic problem, that's what we are talking about. And it's repetition of certain words, events, and parables in these 3 gospels. New Testament scholars have dubbed the relationship between Mark, Matthew, and Luke as the synoptic problem, because they're similar, they're very close, but and some apologetics will tell you, well, it's was the personality of the author. Others will say, well, no, it was something else. There are a lot of reasons that they're different. They're written in different times. It was obviously a very important story that they wanted to tell. They told it in 3 similar but critically different ways. And then the 4th gospel is just so completely different that you can't really do much of that with it. You can find some 4-column printout, and some of the stuff from John is in there, but the stuff in John is not in the right order usually.
See, I read the Bible, but I don't really remember it though.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I
read the Bible, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, it's complicated. It's a complicated text. So yeah. But anyway, which is why people get into arguments. So if you get like a harmony of the Gospels, you'll get like
that was your going to war for God today.
It was. I never could get to the real answer, which is my whole problem is, okay, just because he's wrong, it doesn't mean he's dishonest. Your claim is that he's dishonest. How is he dishonest?
Right. And she had no citations and literally no proof for that. So anyway, she was just
her
assuming.
Baseline assumption is that if he's wrong, he ought to know he's wrong because my mom said so.
Right. He said something my mom didn't like, so he's dishonest. Okay, sweet. Yeah, that was anyway. So I'm sorry to drag the entire chat through and panel through this, but it was just a really interesting back and forth that I dipped my toe in, and I was going to say something snarky, and I'm glad I didn't, because I have other things to do with my life. But God help.
That was way to spend my lunch break.
Yeah,
So,
that was really funny to see you going back and forth with this little girl who, I think you probably forgot more than she'll ever know about apologetics. But anyway, I thought it was funny.
it's possible. She's clearly very intelligent and very smart and very earnest.
And
But
very young. She's
she
also very-
literally just got out of college. Like, literally.
yeah,
So,
literally.
like this is like second lieutenant, like just got here. I'm gonna tell the sergeant what's up. No,
Yeah.
you're not.
Yeah, those. All right. Well,
So-
at any rate, so Harry,
Yes, sir.
you had challenges at work today. Is there anything you can talk about? Any cool stuff that went on? Fun stuff?
Cool stuff, fun stuff.
Yeah, or human interest, human nonsense stuff you can share with us about your interesting world.
No, not
Okay,
really. I
fair enough.
had a bit of a user challenge. I mean, I'm incredibly busy, and a small number of people have figured out that if they just come at me via Teams, I'll actually pay attention sort of asynchronously.
Mm-hmm.
And every now and then you get these users that figure if they're nice to you, maybe you'll do all their work for them. And
Yeah.
I had one of those today who basically gave me something that sounded like a problem, and I spent an hour looking at it only to find out that it actually wasn't broken. He just forgot to put his login name in when he was trying to access something. He was had just a password. He's like, it doesn't go. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm looking up what his supervisor's name is. It's one of those kind of conversations where like, do I need to let somebody know about this situation that somebody needs some extra training? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't have those kind of things happen too terribly often. But, somebody will just say, hey, this thing works somewhere else. I don't understand why it doesn't work here. And I'm like, well, I'm looking at the log and you're not supplying a login name. So I'm not really sure what you want me to do about this. That's sort of how my day went. Because there's nothing like being completely overloaded and then spending an hour working on a problem that doesn't exist.
People've gotten a lot more sophisticated about using computer applications and the like. They've become a lot more accustomed to them, getting them earlier in their life. Was the person you were trying to help, Harry, an older person, perhaps?
I believe so. Yes.
Yes. Okay, that would make sense. I remember years ago, I took I was the help desk. I was running a 100 seat workflow application, and I mean, I was it. I was the guy, the hardware guy, the software guy, the programmer, everything. This was for an $8 billion savings and loan. This is not a small firm, and it was their coast to coast. I was responsible for all their WANs, everything else. This back in the days when one person could do everything. And I got a call from somebody, and she said she was having a problem. Her supervisor told her to call me, and I was having to communicate with her. She was from the country, part of Texas, and we had to run through the thing where I asked her, is the light on your keyboard? Do you see the thing that says caps lock? She said, on the typewriter part. I said, yes, on the typewriter part. Push down caps lock. Okay, did a light go on the keyboard? Yes, sir, it did. I said, okay, I'd like you to look at your monitor. The monitor? And I said, the TV part. Oh, yes. And I said, there's a light on the front. No, there ain't. I said, okay, maybe have part of the problem, because she called me up and said the ViewStar's broke. ViewStar was the name of the application. Everybody called it the ViewStar. The ViewStar's broke, and it just still makes me mad to hear that. And I said, okay, let's figure out what this is. And so we eventually talked her through finding the switch on the front of the monitor and pushing it in. It don't look like a regular switch. It's just a square on the front. Well, it actually pushes in. Feel it with your thumb. Push it in. Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to hurt it. No, you're not going to hurt it. Working with users is an art. It really is something that years of experience. I got a lot better at it over the years, but that was in the early 90s. But helping users through a problem and getting the clues that you need, I really think ranks as an art form, Harry.
Oh, it is, and I'm not I'm not really good at it. I'm not the guy you want talking to regular
End users.
users.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not really where my skill is, because somebody like Geodes can spend 3 hours talking to somebody and helping them through something, and I don't have that level of patience, I'm afraid.
Yeah. You'd be surprised what you can summon, but what kind of patience you can summon. I remember I was just so happy to be doing the interesting things that I was doing. I was getting to buy optical jukeboxes, like by the 6-pack, and getting to spend more money and everything else. I would have done anything to keep that job, and did. It was a great stepping stone for me.
Well, I can tell you a quick story that involves an optical jukebox.
Sure.
Not excessively. There was a time when I went over to Cisco, and I thought it was because it was just sort of like a friendly visit thing. This happens to me occasionally. Like, I'll go someplace supposedly as a guest, and then they'll try to hire me.
Right. I bet that happens a lot, actually.
That's happened more than a few times.
Yes.
But I'm kind of dense. So it's like, hey, Harry, don't you know that girl's really into you? It's like, what? And that's sort of the same way with me in employment. I'm dense and I don't get it.
Gosh, that's how I met my wife.
Exactly.
Because I was pretty dense. I didn't get the hint.
I know.
Then she left the note on my truck.
We're fun that way, guys. A lot of guys are. So I go over and they're showing me all this storage related stuff, and they had an optical jukebox that they used to basically keep a copy of everything they ever sent a customer. And this was for every product that Cisco made. And it
what year was this, would you say? Roughly, just approximately.
1995?
So this was a Sony or an HP jukebox?
I don't remember.
Was it a big cartridge or a little cartridge?
I didn't see inside it. It was a big white box that went whir.
It was light colored?
Yeah.
Okay, that was HP.
I mean, I'm well acquainted with storage technology and a bunch of other stuff, so don't get me wrong. I promise I'm not a complete idiot. I just don't remember this.
Sony's are gunmetal gray.
So this thing was here, and we spent all this time talking, and I was asking all these questions and stuff, and it's like, hey, do you want to come work for Cisco? And this would be your thing. And I'm like, I realize I'm going to get stock options and make a lot of money, but if my whole job was making sure that this one thing worked, I think I would just shoot myself in the head. I'm not going to do that for that one thing. I mean, that's just like way too small a pond to be swimming in until I retire. And that's what I'd be looking at. So people say, Harry, why don't you work for Cisco? Because a problem with a lot of big companies like that is they have so much money that you can end up in a thing where you have like this incredibly narrowly defined job. And I don't like doing that. I like doing a lot of things sort of simultaneously. I kind of enjoy the chaos and the challenge. And I just couldn't imagine myself running one optical jukebox and that being my career until I retired.
Yeah. No, that would, it's also a great place to be made obsolescent.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Obsolete. I mean, and that's, you're doing the right thing, or have done the right thing.
If you look at maybe sometime we can talk about this sometime if we ever, I just put on a show. There's a whole bunch of history about computing at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. And they had this system called Photo Store. And it was amazing because essentially it was like a type of optical storage very early before all the jukeboxes and stuff became available. They were doing amazing things there with our taxpayer money during the Cold War, doing literally anything to try to get ahead. And this is part of how we basically, aside from the Russians having a really stupid economic system, that was unsustainable. We assisted them by out clevering them in computers. So we could not only build nukes, but we could also design them using much more sophisticated tools. But then they were also dumb enough to get in a space race with us. And at a certain point, they just tapped out because they knew they couldn't do it.
Yep.
Yeah, we'd had a number of clever ways of basically taunting them into spending so much money that their economy collapsed.
That's exactly right. People don't realize what we did. And people also don't realize how fly-by-night their space program was. When they killed, who was it, Komarov?
Sounds right.
You know who his backup was? You know who the backup pilot for that flight was?
No.
Gagarin.
Oh, really?
Gagarin. Yes.
Huh.
Yes. Komarov actually was developing a cold, and he was afraid he wanted to die, and he knew he was probably going to die. He wanted that to assume that risk because he was such a good friend of Gagarin. He didn't want to take the national hero away from Russia. There is a great backstory to that. It's really, I've read a couple of books about it. Very interesting backstory to the, I mean, not just about that, but about the Russian space program.
Well, that's one hell of a friendship. But
oh my God, closer than brothers.
Well, the Russian space program is just aerospace in general is interesting because, they got their own group of Project Paperclip guys at the end of World War II.
Yes, they did.
And they got a lot of guys who were very good at rocket engines and metallurgy. And getting the metallurgy guys was a big win for them because they have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to a lot of rare earth metals.
Yes, they do.
So for the Russians to say, oh, we'll just build this whole thing out of titanium, that's not really much of a stretch for them. If you want vanadium or titanium or or osmium, they've got like a ton of that stuff. So they can do really interesting things. And they had some really good stuff going for them, but they had a bad habit of taking a lot of the really smart people, and because they were troublesome, just kind of pushing them off into a corner.
Yes.
Where they ended up breeding and giving rise to even more really smart people. But that's another story.
Yeah. Tell the Sakharov story too. But anyway.
Yeah, the Russians had an interesting program, but they were just behind in certain key areas. And part of it is just that the communist system is just not good for doing science, full stop.
Absolutely right.
The objectives are just completely out of kilter. The ways in which you handle success and failure are all wrong. All the incentive mechanism is completely skewed.
I feel responsible for friend Prospero not being, as she is not here, I need to bring up the name Lysenko and Lysenkoism. And, that kind of nonsense science was that could even exist into the mid part of the 20th century in Russia speaks to the power of political ideology over literal fact, over verifiable scientific fact.
Well, a key part of science is falsification, and if you're not allowed to falsify something, then you're not doing science.
That's why theology is not a science.
Well, let me blow your mind a little bit. There's this thing called the philosophy of science, which I can tell you're acquainted with, right? So philosophers look at how science is done, and then they try to give it, they try to sort of explain how science works, right? But more than that, they try to give it some sort of validity by saying, here's a foundation for it. So you start getting into Karl Popper and all that kind of good stuff. And you have this, but then people make the mistake of saying, well, okay, well, if it doesn't conform to, Popper or Kuhn or whatever, it isn't actually science, because they say science needs to work the way philosophy of science says it does. And no, it actually doesn't. Science only has to do one thing well, which is explain things successfully. You create some kind of model or some kind of framework. How you go about creating the model and the framework is part of it, but it's not the most important part of it. It's like saying that the thing that makes America great is the Constitution. No, it's the Constitution combined with people who have the willingness to actually follow the damn thing, to not just sort of undo it. Because if enough people decide not to follow the Constitution, it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people don't really get the way science works. And there's a lot of science that's like kind of the Galileo stuff where you just need reproducibility, right? So you can do that kind of science and it fits the model really well. But there's other things that are definitely use scientific methods, but don't lend themselves well to that kind of reproducibility, where you have to get into a lot more complicated methods for describing the way the world works. Like certainly at the quantum level, you can't say anything about specific events.
No,
You can just talk in terms of
there's
probabilities.
no way to measure them, right? You have to model them using math. That's the great thing about math, and why I'm a big fan. I think this new math thing. I think that math is as good a modeling language as we're liable to come up with to model reality. But that's really what math is. It's a modeling language. At least that's the way I think of it, Harry.
Yeah. Well, in terms of philosophy of science and the Russians, I think it was Lakatos who came up with basically this philosophy of science thing, where it's sort of like the paradigm. It's the research program. And it actually factors in really well sort of what happens when you have something like a Soviet government sending scientists off to a gulag and forcing them to basically do slave labor to do science. If you look at what happened in Chernobyl, a lot of the reason things went as poorly as they did was because they were afraid of what was going to happen to them if they told the important people how bad things were. So a lot of key communication did not occur when it should have.
Yeah.
But
But-
what happens if you shoot the messenger?
Well, actually, Chernobyl came up in my work today. I was explaining to this guy that four 19-inch racks of extremely complicated equipment with lots of interconnects was going to need to be moved to essentially defrag part of a data center. And he said, well, I assume we're going to do this over like a weekend or a long weekend. And I said, absolutely not, because I don't want to make the Chernobyl mistake. Part of why Chernobyl went poorly was because they were doing an experiment. And it got delayed because they couldn't turn the power off because they needed more power. I mean,
It was a test, wasn't it?
they were doing a test. And they said, oh, well, we'll just give the instructions to the night crew and they can do it. So they essentially swing shift went home, graveyard showed up around 11 p.m. and they started running this damn test, and it did not go the way it was supposed to. All of the people who designed the test and the crack team were all not there. And you can sort of see where things ended up.
Yeah.
And I said, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing the Chernobyl thing. The time when we're going to do this is when as many people who know what they're doing are available as possible. I don't care if it causes downtime. I don't want to get into a situation where we're down for weeks trying to figure out problems because the right people weren't available.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're defragmenting what did you say?
A data
Defragmenting
center.
A data center.
Yeah, because customers come and go in these commercial data centers, and then you'll end up with rows that have
Gotcha.
blocks of stuff that's open, and they want to have whole rows and columns that they can sell to bigger customers.
Right. Of course, those are just no. I know they're just numbers, but yeah, I know the
good
problem.
times.
I know. Yeah, some bad memories actually. Not bad memories, but just strange memories.
Well, they sent me a note. The data center sent me a note, and this is for one of my customers, and said, "Oh yeah, we want to do this thing. And by the way, here's where in our contract where it says we can do this." I said, "Well, that's really great. Have you actually looked at the cabinets you're proposing moving?" They're like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Have you actually looked at them? Do you know what it is you're proposing moving?" Because they're the ones that have to actually make the move.
Yes.
If it's like, because I'm fairly sure that if they just look at them, they'll realize, oh, this is a really bad idea. you know, because they're sort of probably thinking that it's like, oh, 48 1U servers with 1 or 2 Ethernets connected and a couple switches. Oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
No, no. It's anything but that. It's lots of different kinds of stuff, multiple kinds of file servers. It's basically a research test bed, and it's got all kinds of different stuff in it.
Oh God! So there's no standardization and there's no documentation.
No, it's not a
meaningful.
homogeneous cluster. It's 4 racks of extremely complicated stuff that's all different.
I'm gonna have a nightmare in your honor.
Yeah. Yeah.
That just sounds like horror.
But yeah, I brought up Chernobyl today because I don't want to do what they did at Chernobyl.
I'm going to refer to that as your Chernobyl project.
No, thank you.
Chernobyl avoided.
Yeah, but much like people don't understand apologetics, there's this thing where people talk about scientism. And I really think that most of the lay people's discussion about scientism is really, it's just sophistry.
Yes.
It's a lot of basically blaming science for the foibles of scientists, you know, the self-interest of individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a process, it's kind of hard to come up with something that does a better job than science. You know, because it helps you actually separate the things that work from the things that don't much more effectively than any other method you're going to come up with. And I'm not prepared to get rid of science just because some guy like Fauci says dumb things.
Right.
It's like, I'm the science. No, you're not. You're not the
He said,
science.
I represent the science.
Yeah, whatever version of that, it's still wrong.
He doesn't represent the science. In fact, the fact that he would make that statement tells me that he doesn't understand much about science at all.
No, it really does mean that. It's kind of like
he's not even a senator from Naboo.
Like Al Sharpton saying that he represents black people. He represents some black people. You were making a Star Wars joke?
Yes, I was.
So what was it about Naboo?
Yeah, I said he's not even a senator from Naboo. I couldn't help it.
I've actually not seen most of those new movies.
And you haven't missed a thing.
Yeah, and nothing of value was lost.
Nothing of value was lost. The Last Jedi.
I heard so bad about the sequels.
You know, The Last Jedi is so bad it makes the prequels look good.
I don't know, man. You lost me at the Ewoks.
Yeah, I feel you.
It makes them look good too.
I'm a Star Trek guy. I'm just
I'm a Star Trek guy all the way through. I'm a Star Trek guy all the way through. Although I did enjoy the very first Star Wars movie.
I did too.
Number 4, I think, and I thought as a standalone movie it works fine.
Yep.
And so, as far as I'm concerned, that's the Star Wars franchise.
Yep.
Star Trek is just so much more information and lore. Plus, it makes sense. Yeah. It's mostly pretty consistent, and the Star Wars stuff is just all over the place.
You know, Skep, there was a different kind of woman that sort of, since it is, it is International Women's Day, I guess I get to talk about this. There was like a different kind of woman that you sort of had back then that I don't see as much of now. You know, like your Diane Sawyer's hanging out in the White House with Nixon and all of his, rowdy friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, she was a tough broad, and I mean that in a very good way.
She would smoke cigars with them.
Yeah, she was
with the men.
Awesome.
She did. Yeah,
she was awesome. I mean, she has. Even if it's not about her being a woman, I respect her, and she's a woman. I don't respect her because she's a woman. She's fantastic. And you get people like Katharine Hepburn, but like look at Angie Dickinson hanging with the guys.
Mm-hmm.
And who was the other one? I think Carrie Fisher was very much like that. Carrie Fisher was pretty exceptional.
Yeah.
And that's part of why those movies worked as well as they did. Carrie Fisher is vastly underrated, I think, in terms of how important she was to that franchise.
She could have just been the Hollywood royalty kid, too.
Yeah.
You know, and she was all set up to do that, and she went out and accomplished things. I have a lot of respect for her, too.
Yeah, I think she was, but I mean, the original Star Wars, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill was great in that, but I mean, he was not the main thing that carried it. And of course, we had James Earl Jones was the voice of Darth Vader.
Yep, that was a good
Alec
movie.
Guinness was in it, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yes, Alec Guinness was in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That's a damn fine movie. I mean, just
Yeah.
based on the people that are in it.
Yeah.
But
The
yeah,
guy-
the thing about Carrie Fisher that I like so much is because she was so damn good in Star Wars, but she was also so damn good in the Blues Brothers. And to my mind, if you can do both of those things well, you're
You've got
pretty damn
range.
talented. Yeah.
You've got range. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt
She
about it.
absolutely. And then the Last Jedi happened. God, that movie makes me so mad.
Is that the one where she got to fly through space with her force powers?
Yep. Just absolute waste. The whole sequel trilogy was because they were so focused on we got to get that coin that they didn't develop the story.
Yeah,
and
they
so
forgot
you
to
ended
write
up
a
with
decent story. So we have Mary
Well,
Sue.
the Force Awakens was like almost shot for shot A New Hope. So you could probably watch that one no problem because it's pretty much the same movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then The Last Jedi, they didn't give him enough direction to have a cohesive story. And so he just went way off the rails. If it was just a standalone like story all by itself, it probably wouldn't have been as bad. But as a sequel to The Force Awakens, it didn't work at all, which left J.J. Abrams in the third movie to try to put a trilogy, an actual honest-to-God trilogy, all in one movie, and it didn't work.
Yeah, I couldn't make myself sit through that.
That's okay. I did for you.
Thank you.
Ryan Johnson was
Take one
the
for the
director
team.
of the one before the last one, right? And then what was it? It was
Yes.
Abrams, then Ryan Roundhead Johnson, then Abrams again.
Yep.
I thought
and Johnson-
Rebel One was actually fairly decent, but are
Rogue
you
One,
familiar?
yeah.
Rogue One, sorry. Are you familiar with the how it should have been made little cartoon animated things?
I've seen some.
It's just how it
But,
should have been made. It's like SHISHE. How it should
I'll
have
have to look
ended.
up for
That's
this.
it. How it should have ended is what it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are really great. So they go and they look at a lot of these movies and then they just sort of, for fun, say, oh, well, if you'd just done this one thing differently, it could have just ended quickly. You know, they sort of poke fun at the stories.
Oh,
It was really, really easy for them to do the modern Star Wars movie once because it's just way too many MacGuffins and
Yes.
contrivances, and they're just not good. I'm sorry. I understand that fans enjoyed them because they're fans, but I don't think that as a standalone thing, they're very good.
no, they weren't. And most fans they're not as well loved at all. I'm just frustrated because I have 3 girls and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this might be fun. And it's not. It's terrible. Like Rey is not a good character. And it's not the
Nope.
actress's fault. It's a terrible written character.
Yeah, I got nothing against Daisy Ridley. She's fine. But it's not a good character. She's not really properly 3-dimensional, and the whole Mary Sue thing is just way too obvious.
Yeah, God.
And the poor Asian girl in The Last Jedi, like she got a lot of hate for it was not her fault.
Rose
Because they
Tico?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they turned her into like a love interest for Finn. And then in the third movie, it's like, hey, pal. And Finn slaps her on the back and walks away. I'm like, oh, okay. What?
Yeah.
Major whiplash there. So,
Yeah.
man, I'm trying to bring me down like the Seahawks today, trading away all our good players.
I guess Finn decided to friend zone her.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. Yep.
Poor girl.
Wow, The Last Jedi grossed over $1 billion.
And worth every penny.
Just
That doesn't surprise me. Because people, I think, were eager to do something to see where the story would go because The Force Awakens was such a throwback, and then it ended totally.
What was great about those movies is you could really sense how the alums from the earlier movies totally wanted to be there, and they were definitely not doing it because they had to for the money. You know, you look
Well,
at
they
Harrison
weren't given a
Ford, and
good script, though.
Harrison Ford was fully engaged. You know, I mean, he was just very, very happy to be in that thing. And Mark Hamill, oh, I think this was the way he totally wanted his career to end.
Yeah, that was a great. He really had a great out.
Well, you know what? PSA Sitch did a fantastic video on it, if you haven't seen it, comparing The Last Jedi and Into the Spider-Verse. And it's really top notch.
That sounds
Because
interesting.
Yeah, it's fantastic because he compares Mark Hamill's character in The Last Jedi to Peter Parker in Into the Spider-Verse. And I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but it is remarkably good. It's very, very good. And it's a very similar character because Peter Parker in that story is an older version of Peter Parker, and he's kind of fell on hard times, and he's broke up with Mary Jane. And he's really down on himself.
So you're talking about the Marvel animation thing featuring the Miles Morales Spider-Man.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so he has to play this mentor character, but he's also really disillusioned. But it's so much better done. So much better done. Miles Morales is a much better mentoree than Rey is, because he struggles to get full grasp of his abilities, and Rey just does it. You know, it's just PSC did a good job. I would have made the connection without his video, and it's remarkably well done.
I guess Rey's just a better Jedi, isn't she?
Than all of them.
She didn't need Yoda to,
teach her anything.
To teach her, how to levitate quarters or something first. No, none of that.
Training is overrated.
Yeah, training is overrated when you're just naturally superior.
But really, it's the director saying to the world, our fans are so stupid, naive, and imbecilic that they will swallow anything that we ask them to uncritically. And that movie was an insult. It really was.
I don't think that's how they. I think
that's the way it made me feel. That's all.
Well, it was insulting, but because they're dumb, not that they think their audience is dumb. Like, they're genuinely dumb because they thought that, like Rian Johnson, I'll never watch another Rian Johnson movie again, ever. I don't care what it is. I don't care how good anybody says it is. I'm never watching one of his movies.
Have you watched Breaking Bad?
I've watched some of it. I haven't watched all.
He directed several episodes, I think, of that. I think he was. I think it's the same guy, Rian Johnson. Yeah.
Probably.
But it was so about Bad fan.
I watched some of it. I didn't actually go back and actually watch the whole thing, but Rian Johnson was all about deconstruction, and he's gonna deconstruct this thing. By golly, and they're gonna eat this pill because they need to see my deconstruction.
Okay.
Well, at least they're not doing Nouvelle cuisine, because deconstructing food that's really good into some sort of abstract art seems like a waste of time to me.
Well, so with The Last Jedi.
I think they should reboot the whole franchise and cast random TikTok people as the stars.
Or Twitch streamers.
That'd be an excellent idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really solid stuff. And have a bunch of OnlyFans girls kind of making a R-rated kind of a deal.
Well, if it's TikTok, you could just get Call Me Chris in and have her just do every character.
Yeah, OnlyFans. That would make one heck of a lightsaber duel.
Yeah.
But it's Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, did a terrific. His YouTube channel is gone now, but you can find this in someplace, I'm sure, on one of the alternate platforms he's still on. You can find his review of I think it's the review of The Last Jedi, and it is one of the funniest YouTube videos I've ever watched. I laughed all the way through it. The first time I heard it, I watched it 2 more times just to make sure I got everything because I was laughing so hard all the way through it. And he was incensed. It's a great thing. If you ever find it, if I can find it, I'll look around and see if it's easily available. I'll post it out on Twitter or something. And
Cool.
Yeah, that was a. He still has the Thinkery and Akkad Daily. You know, it might be on the Thinkery. Now that I think about it, but anyway, I'll check it out. Anyway, how I feel is kind of running out of steam, and this might be a natural place to kind of go around the horn and see if anybody has anything they wanted to say, get off their chest, or true confessions, or root for a sports team. Anybody have anything to cast into the ether this evening here on Minions of the Zoo?
Well, you know me, I could talk forever.
Yes. Hey, Harry, one thing I would like to do, you and I need to make a commitment to do some kind of technical stream. It doesn't have to be the history of the internet, but some sort of technical stream maybe with some of our technical friends, and just have a geek speak kind of a hour and see how it goes. What do you think about that idea?
I've already kind of written an outline for the history of the internet thing.
Yes, I saw that,
as you know.
Yes.
But I've jokingly threw out a title mostly just to see if you were paying attention. I think I called it Tech Talk with Skep Talk.
Yes.
And you said, no, we're not going to call it that. It's like, okay. So I knew you were paying attention.
No, it's been on my mind, and I keep saying I've got to talk with Harry. I don't want him to think that I'm losing interest in this. I think it's a great idea, and I think you and I need to get together offline and just do a phone call, do a planning session on get some ideas together and throw them at each other.
What we need to do is we need to pick 2 more people and make them be the right people.
Yes, that's one of the things I was going to bring up is who else can we get?
It'd be the 4 horsemen of IT history or whatever.
Right. Yes.
Because this shit used to be hard.
The multiplex.
This shit actually used to be hard.
It used to be really hard.
Yeah, it used to be that it was a very small percentage of the population that it's not a question of IQ. This isn't about people being smart. It's about people being well suited to the types of problems. And the main thing that's changed about computers is it's not that the computers are more powerful. It's that so many things have been essentially made into these frameworks that a lot of people who would have just been completely unsuited for working with computers now can work with them quite easily because they're not really working with the computers. They're working with these frameworks. You can be very successful just knowing how to administer like one system for managing like your employee benefits package.
Right.
There's a lot of why computers have become so big is because they reached a level of power and sophistication that allowed them to become tools for large percentages of the population, to the point now where everybody knows how to use one.
Right.
Everybody
has
blind
basic
press.
skills.
But even blind press, who's blind,
yes,
has technology that allows her to use a computer, and I swear she multitasks better than I do reading the chat. Just reading it in Braille and then continuing to talk. She's actually really good at what she does. She's a better YouTuber than I am.
Do you realize how many things she's holding in her head?
Yeah.
That's her picture of the world is what she has learned through sound and touch. And that, she walks around with that picture. And if it happens to be a list of 27 names, she'll remember the 27 names. I mean, she has a phenomenal memory. It is really a high quality memory. It's a memory that's trained.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you have to do something. And I mean, you're forced to do this. There's no other way for you to go forward in society.
Well,
And
stupid
you know,
human tricks, basically. That's
yeah,
what that's
stupid
what
human
humans
tricks,
do.
right.
Is we do tricks and then we die. That's, you know, we have a facility for certain types of things. Some people juggle. Some people memorize long lists of names, even though they can't read, you know, visually. And
yeah,
we all have our little things. You know, some people are really good at math.
absolutely.
And it's that diversity of people that actually kind of does the diversity of thought and skill and ability and expression that actually does make us kind of great.
It does. We're an interesting bouillabaisse of beings here on the earth. An interesting stew of lots of different people, different talents, and unfortunately, different objectives too.
Yeah, because we could have one hell of a conversation about religion, but not this late in the evening, and not when I've been awake since 5:30.
Correct. W.R. Costin asks, "Is blind press awesome?" The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Definitively.
Facts. True facts.
And,
Yeah, working with, you know, an actual handicap, she's better at it than I am. That's, I don't know how much praise I can give her other than that.
yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And would an actual admiral wear an evening gown on the bridge of a ship?
Are you talking about Laura Dern?
Yes, right. Exactly. That's what he's referring
How
to.
she looks like she went to Africa and they did that thing where they just kept adding rings to her neck. How did her neck get to be so long? She's looking very pencil neck in that.
Yeah,
movie.
she's looking like an Antifa chief.
Yeah.
And
And again,
But in-
there's another missed opportunity because that role should have been Admiral Akbar, and they did. He was barely in it, and they killed him off. And in the same thing with the whole flying Princess Leia, that role should have been Admiral Akbar. The audience would have known who he was. You have the diversity because he's a freaking squid.
Mhm.
right, got species
and-
diversity.
Right. Which that is the diversity in Star Wars. Is
Right.
you have different species. But nope, it had to be a woman, especially a tall woman, to tell the male characters how stupid they were. But you're not going to tell them the plan. They got to guess the plan.
Mhm.
Ugh. Yeah, sorry.
And of course,
I could rant for a long time about that.
the younger, energetic white guy with ants in his pants to do something about it, you know, was faced with what was seemingly incompetent leadership, and then he goes off and does something, and then of course he has to be dressed down about, you know, you're being motivated is wrong, man, because we actually know what we're doing. We're just so wise you can't even realize it. Well, maybe in hindsight, when you factor in all the bad writing, I guess it makes kind of sense. But from his perspective, it's like there's things that need doing and he goes out to do them, but they kind of painted him like, instead of as being a hero, kind of like an idiot.
Well, I mean, you can't have anybody show initiative.
No, initiative is bad.
This is bad. Yep.
Yeah, initiative is bad. Let's not have any of that.
Well,
So to answer your
initiative means
question,
you're not conforming.
we can probably put this thing to bed if you want to, Skep.
Well, no, it's just if people have other things to talk about, we should talk about them. I was just going to run through chat and see what else was it. Assassin of the Gray saying they had to destroy Peter Parker to officially float his replacement. Yeah,
Yeah, he's wrong.
Peter Parker plus.
Assassin of the Gray's wrong. No, I thought that was a great movie, and Miles Morales is a distinct character. Yes, he's Spider-Man, but it's a distinct Spider-Man.
The
You know,
Marvel
just like
animation people are actually very good. And I think in a lot of ways they're much better than the regular Marvel people sometimes.
Marvel has
And
not
that-
distinguished itself.
Yeah.
So, what's your opinion of Ms. Marvel? You big fan?
Who are you asking?
Either of you, or Jason?
I haven't seen it, so But I didn't like her in the Endgame movie. She was kind of an asshole. So
Is that having
Well-
to do with Electra Woman and Dyna Girl?
Yeah, we'll see. I'll see how
the
it-
extended
but yeah, I'm not
universe or expanded universe. You know, Marvel has just. I really think they have a leadership problem in their creative department. They do not provide the right kind of guiding leadership, and that's a real art at that level. I don't know how you find that kind of talent, but I think letting the directors just do whatever the hell they want, and trying to fix it with a script, which I think is kind of happening to Marvel a little bit, is not working for them.
Well, occasionally they produce something good in spite of themselves with that model, though. I thought Ant-Man was actually decent. Deadpool is a nice, refreshing example.
Deadpool was okay.
There have been a few things that are okay, but it's more stuff off on the periphery. The main thing that they're missing is vision. Their corporate vision is just gone. And without corporate vision, leadership isn't really going to mean anything, because we're leading you to what?
Right.
You know, quo vadis, Marvel. You know,
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, where are we going with all of this? Oh, we're going to go to Endgame, and then we're going to no. Endgame was just almost like they just sort of said, I guess we got to put a pin in this eventually. It wasn't real, and that was part of the rebooting of the characters. You know, so we replace Tony Stark with a daring young, brave black woman who essentially steals the suit. If I've got the mythos correct, as opposed to sort of inventing it from whole cloth herself. Right. You know, the Tony Stark character is much more interesting right there. You know, much like with STD or Star Trek Discovery. Mm-hmm. I'm still trying to get past the mutiny part at the beginning of season 1. I'm just like, I can't take this show seriously with this level of writing.
I have given up on Star Trek Discovery.
My wife just got Paramount Plus, so I think I'm gonna have to delve into that.
Star Trek Discovery?
Well, just the new Star Trek and Picard too. I haven't seen either one of them.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Picard. I would like that to be better than it is likely to be, but we'll see. We shall see.
Yeah.
Wasn't Quo Vadis a movie?
Maybe. But if I've got my Latin correct, it basically just means where are we going?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's actually a little bit idiomatic. It actually means where you're marching.
Yeah.
And it's where are you marching? Where you know, but everybody, it literally means where are you going?
Yeah. Good times.
I'm looking it up. Quo Vadis or Domini Quo Vadis, meaning Lord, where are you going? A text from the Apocryphal Acts of Peter, composed in Anno Domini 190, probably in Syria.
But it's been repurposed in modern times as an anchor for a lot of very bad speeches.
Yes.
I've heard it used many times, never once in a way that I thought was actually all that compelling.
Say that again. What? Say that sentence again.
I've seen it used many times in bad speeches. I've never seen it used sort of in a compelling sort of way. It's just sort of a lazy way of just saying, you know, what are we doing? Example. What are we doing? Example. You just do a bunch of things, but because you're saying it in Latin, that's sort of the refrain of the stupid song. That's not a very good song.
People, when they hear Latin, they just automatically give it credibility that they shouldn't, I think, without examination.
Yeah. It's like an English accent automatically makes you sound smarter.
Exactly. That's so true. And only with Americans, though. Australians,
of course.
Australians don't buy that stuff at all.
So Australians don't think that Stephen Fry is automatically smart?
What they know he's smart because he's smart. But
yeah.
They don't. that is not embellished and rosied up by his accent to them. But Americans, man, we just swoon. I think it's like this, don't you say? Yeah. Yes. Oh, of course. You must be right. You're British. You sound so authoritative.
So you're saying there's a reason why John Oliver has a career here and not at home?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Although weirdly, they can actually be legitimately sophisticated. The comedian Bill Hicks did not do terribly well here. He went over to England and just killed it. I mean, just absolutely killed it. Yeah. And then came back here and it was like pretty much crickets, and every now and then Letterman would, try to bring him on. And I think Hicks died when he was 32. What a loss. But I mean, he was one of the great comedians that a lot of people don't know about. Lenny Bruce wasn't that old when he died either. Being a very edgy comedian, who gets really worked up about how shitty the world is, doesn't do much for your lifespan.
Chris Farley, John Belushi. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You are not wrong.
Or Zelensky.
I truly hope that he can pull this off and stay alive. I just think he's. By the way, here's what Bill Hicks looks like. Everybody.
Yeah, he was a funny guy.
Doesn't work. All right.
Yep.
Really smart, edgy comedy. I mean, it was very, very edgy, very rough.
It was. I didn't know of him until you mentioned him, and just hunting around. So, of course, I don't know, modern comedians worth a darn, because most of them haven't been very funny for a long time. Although a lot of the new lesbian woke comedians are hilarious.
don't even start with me.
Man, am I right?
I can't remember. Did I ever send you the link to this? It's a clip with W.C. Fields, and there's this kind of big woman. I mean, physically large woman, who he's playing off of, and it's a scene in a diner, and it is one of my favorite things. And I know people say stuff like that. No, I mean literally. Listen to my words. It is one of my favorite things, certainly in terms of comedy and entertainment. I will send you the link, or maybe some Saturday we'll just watch it. I have to get it checked. It might even be out of copyright at this point. So, but W.C. Fields was amazing. Some of the classic comedy stuff was really good. There's no era in which I can't find a comedian that I enjoyed, I think.
Oh, I like W.C. Fields. He, in spite of the fact he was evil as a person, he was... he had the most beautiful sarcasm, that just was so pure, so perfect. His takes on things.
But he could be self-deprecating sometimes too, which was the thing.
Yeah. He would slyly laugh at himself. He'd make some little comment of, that was part of the art of his craft. And to me, comedians like why am I? Because I'm trying too hard. I'm trying too hard and I'm a little bit tired. Bob
Newhart?
No,
Newhart?
Newhart. Bob Newhart. Bob Newhart. Yes, Bob Newhart was. God, that's scary that I couldn't remember his last name. I mean, he's probably my number 2 or 3 favorite comedian of all time. The telephone routine that he did. That when I was, about a freshman in high school, we would just listen to that on a record in my friend's house. He a LP of that, and we would play that and just play it over and over and laugh ourselves till snot was coming out our nose. It was so funny. And I wish things could be funny like that again.
I think
Just
the
that.
first album like that I heard was not the Button Down Mind. It wasn't Bob Newhart. The first thing like that I ever heard was actually Shelley Berman, and it was outside
We used to listen to
Shelley
Shelley Berman.
Shelley Berman was outside Shelley Berman was like the first comedy album that I ever
I
listened
can't believe
to
you even
seriously.
know who he is.
Oh
That's
yeah, Shelley Berman's great.
Yeah.
Shelley
Old
Berman.
guys talk about old comedians. but-
Shelley Berman did fantastic stuff, but you'd watch some of the BBC crap, and I can't remember who was that. I think he was Irish, who sort of did like a Shelley Berman kind of thing, but it was sort of like he was a cheap Irish knockoff of Shelley Berman.
Trying to
Dave
think.
something, I can't remember the guy's name, but he had a show on, that would show up on like PBS, and you'd watch it, and it was like, reasonably funny, but there's just sort of this type of comedian that existed for a while, kind of like the guy in the suit who leans back too far smoking a cigarette telling observational jokes, and then between the jokes there'll be like some kind of skit,
Right.
and that was sort of a thing that just sort of happened for a while. It was I mean, comedy is fun, and I like the history of it quite a bit.
Yeah.
I kind of follow comedy like most people follow sports. Like I don't have the gene that lets me enjoy watching other people play sports and win things.
Mhm.
It's just the way I'm wired. That little boost that people get because their team wins doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah. I don't get that either.
And I admit that means I'm weird. I know that most people enjoy this and I don't. So I'm not claiming to be better than everybody, or I'm the weird one. Okay. I own this. But during that time when I'm not watching sports, I can be interested in things like barbecue and comedy and other stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's I found that I was watching football out of habit. I was watching football because I always had. And so I just quit. I walked away from it, and all of a sudden I had like 6 hours on Sundays back and my Monday nights back.
Yeah. It frees up a lot of time not watching other people play football.
Exactly.
Dave Allen is the comedian I was thinking of. And he was Irish. I got it right.
Okay, Dave Allen. Put that down on my list.
So Dave Allen's like an Irish version of Shelley Berman.
Okay. David Tynan O'Mahony, known professionally as Dave Allen, was an Irish comedian, satirist, and actor. He was best known for his observational comedy. He became known in Australia in 1963 and 64. And
I'll have to look that guy up.
was popular to the mid 80s.
Yeah, perfectly reasonable comedian sort of thing. But Bob Newhart what was so funny about it was that he was so incredibly deadpan, whereas Shelley Berman had more of a bit of a vaudevillian kind of edge to it, where he would really get into character. So where Bob Newhart would talk about some skit involving a phone or an airline pilot, and it would just be straight, just very deadpan. The whole focus is on the content of the joke. Somebody like Shelley Berman's much more performative in terms of, really kind of putting in like voices and accents and that sort of thing. There's a lot more sort of flair to it, and it's just personal preference which thing you like more.
God, I just enjoyed all those guys.
I enjoyed all those guys.
And, I even liked, if you remember Bill Cosby when he came out with the album, Why Is There Air? This is like 1965 and 66. That was a funny album.
I think my grandpa owned that album.
That's a funny album.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's a funny album. And
I remember listening to those albums at their house. Gosh, this was 90, 91, 92? Because he died in 95. But yeah, Bill Cosby had those. Yeah, I think he had two of them, two Bill Cosby albums that we listened to, and we rolled.
We used to walk around doing our Bill Cosby imitations, of his tales of playing football for Temple against the evil Hofstra, the giants from Hofstra who weighed 400 pounds and had one eye in the center of their forehead and tusks.
Well, there is. He wasn't very prolific in terms of albums, but Woody Allen stand-up comic is a fantastic comedy album. If you're going through these things, once you've actually listened to 2 or 3 New Hearts and a Shelley Berman and stuff,
Go with the Woody Allen chaser.
go with Woody Allen stand-up comic. There's some great jokes in there, and he definitely knew how to sort of write a story.
He's a great writer. He's a
great writer, and it's a hell of a performance. That's I mean, hell, there was a time when Whoopi Goldberg was funny. Not that you would know anymore. Joey Behar used to
1964. That's from.
Yeah, Joy Behar used to basically MC at places like I can't remember if it was whether she was New York or I guess she was New York, but like at Caroline's and places like that, she was like a go-to MC for quite a while. I mean, she used to be funny, and now she doesn't even understand what sarcasm is.
I'm sorry, who are you talking about?
Joy Behar, that woman.
Oh, Joy Behar. Yeah. She's become humorless and so full of herself and so full of offense.
Yeah, but Betty White, always funny.
Yeah.
From cradle to grave, that woman was funny.
Yep.
And she could be funny in almost any context, any situation. Talk about somebody with range.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And sharp and cool. She could hang with the guys too. Not a problem.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's one of those women I really admire. I really just really truly admire her life and career. So
yeah, she was pretty damn amazing.
What I wish things were I wish things were I could say I was optimistic for the future of comedy, but it seems to be getting duller and more politically correct. It makes me sad because good comedy is hard to write and should be appreciated. It's one of the delights of life. It makes me sad that new people don't get to have that because of the coronation of our nation.
The problem is like it's not like the talent's gone away. It's a little like music. Like the talent hasn't gone away. The problem is those people can't rise to the top anymore. So if you know them, it's going to be kind of a niche thing. It'll be a small thing, and they'll never hit the big time because they don't check the right boxes as far as ideology goes, and that's the sad thing.
I think
so. They're out there,
wrong.
But you may never know.
I think you might both be wrong, and I think this is a time when you might want to be wrong. It has never been so easy for a person to break into comedy. The internet has made it so much simpler than it ever was. You want to do sketch comedy, do sketch comedy. You want to do stand-up, do stand-up. It has never been easier to, basically get to an open mic night and try to get some time in. There have never been so many opportunities to learn about it. You can go on to the masterclass thing, and there are really good comedians that will give you masterclasses and tell you okay, this is how you do a bit. This is how you write a joke. This is how you work on your material. In the whole history of mankind, there has never been as much opportunity for somebody to break in as there is now. Now, you have to be a little bit savvy because otherwise you're going to get a lot of free publicity. Sort of like Chappelle will tell you about that. But you look at a guy like Bill Burr, and he navigates it just fine. Mark Normand navigates it just fine. Sam Morril does it too. You've got comedians that are very progressive, like your Judy Gold, and she manages just fine. Tom Papa, that Hot Pocket guy, what is his name? He's pretty famous. I can't remember. Jim Gaffigan. You've got a lot of these guys doing stuff, and they know how to work the system. These non-entities that you're thinking of that are supposedly destroying comedy, nobody gives a shit what happens on Saturday Night Live anymore. Look at their numbers. It's
that's
like
true.
community.
Ugh.
It's like community service. They might as well just show a test pattern with that picture of that Native American guy on it. I mean, there's no point in having something like Saturday Night Live on. Nobody cares, and nobody cares about Hannah Gadsby either. Now, Hannah Gadsby supposedly used to be funny. She used to actually do stuff before she became a self-indulgent twat waffle.
Yeah.
But you can get people on the other side flame out, like Owen Benjamin. Like, I was a fan of him for a while, and then, man, he went.
Well, he kind of went nuts.
I don't think he went nuts.
No, he went
Dave
nuts.
Chappelle, we're okay.
The whole thing with the moon landing and the weird conspiracy thing and kind of started picking up the crazy eyes. I think he legitimately kind of went nuts.
I don't think so. I actually I think that was on purpose, because what would happen is he would come out with those crazy things. It would split his audience, and then those that remain would be really rabidly loyal. And he just kept doing that over and over and over and over and over again to kind of facilitate a little cult that would buy anything he ever wanted to sell.
I suppose it could have been on purpose.
Might be a little both,
Yeah.
but because it seemed to be deliberate, because it was like a deliberate timing wise. Like, you do the moon landing and then you kind of come off it, and then you blast Jordan Peterson and split his audience that way, and then come back, and then you do the Holocaust style thing, and that's when I got off the train. And was like, I'm done with you. I don't want to deal with you anymore. And like, he got into the E. Michael Jones and that whole stuff, and I'm like, nope.
Well,
You're
I hope
going.
you're right and I'm wrong, because I still think he's kind of got crazy eyes now.
Hey guys, I need to go lay down. So
Actually, well, we're going to call it here. That we've gone way over 2 hours. So it's come to that part of the show. But I did want to thank chat for coming out and listening to us. We do this for you, and thank my panel. I'm so grateful to have you guys. I really am. Thanks for joining me this evening. I invited Johnny on, but he was tired, and of course Prospero couldn't make it. But thank you guys for coming out and joining us here on Minions of the Zoo. But for this Tuesday edition, the zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.